You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, what's good, everybody? It's time for the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Betano. Nick Alberga and the returning Jay Rosehill. What's going on, Rosie?
What's going on? You lost a bit of hair up top, Nicky. Bobby.
Yeah, fresh little buzz cut, courtesy our friends over at Great Clips doing fantastic stuff as per usual. Getting set for the playoffs. I said this on yesterday's show. I wanted to provide some new juju before this Maple Leafs team. The second to last time this Maple Leafs team won a playoff series, I had the buzz cut going, so I thought I'd go back to the well. I just got to bring positivity this time around. We're within a month to the Stanley Cup Playoffs here, bud.
I like it. Yeah, man. It's coming up quick. It's coming up quick. Things are falling into place and things are shaping up. It's less than a month, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny watching the games on Monday night. There were just two games. You had the Canucks game, low scoring, tight checking. You had the Blues Vegas tight checking. Like, it's got that playoff feel, but I don't know about you. It's that time of year where I'm like, just get to the playoffs already. And maybe that's because of the team we cover in the Toronto Maple Leafs, where pretty much every year it's a foregone conclusion they're going to be in the postseason. But like, the next 10 to 12 games is going to take forever, I think, where I think if you're Sheldon Keefe, you just want to make sure these guys stay healthy and are ready for game one of the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess that's definitely part of it. But, I'm a big believer in, you got to be ramped up going into the playoffs. You got to be playing the right way and finding, some juju going into it. You don't just say, okay, we've been dicking around and, healthying guys and doing some load management with this guy and dicking around with the lines and pulling guys in and out. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, okay, playoffs today, guys. All right, let's go now. I don't think it works that way. You got to have some momentum going in there and you got to pick up right where you left off. This team's famous for like not being able to find it at times, not being able to find it in the playoffs. So I think it's a big deal to have it already found and ramping right into the playoffs and nothing changes. You just go hammer down even more. And as opposed to being like, oh, we got the big start button here. I don't like that. I don't like that mentality.
Yeah, you want to be trending in the right direction, and certainly the Nashville Predators are right now, which leads me to my question. That's something that transpired over the weekend, and I want to get your thoughts on being a former fighter in this league. So we saw Braden Shen drop him last night against Vegas, but over the weekend, dude, I was so fired up. I was so horned up to see Philip Forsberg, who's known for his goal-scoring abilities, drop the gloves of Moritz Seider of the Detroit Red Wings. Did you have any issue with that? Because I know a lot of people went back at me on Twitter specifically saying, oh, I don't want Forsberg hurt for the playoffs. I'm like, man, that the room would love the guy after that, no?
Dude, if you're kicking him in the pants on the bench saying go out there and scrap that guy, then it's like, why would you do that? Why would you pick him? Why would you risk that? But this is hockey and it's an intense sport and things boil over. And when it comes down to it, if he's out there and he's playing with the passion, intensity, and has the mindset that could at any point in time lead him to say, enough's enough, I'm going to scrap here, fucking rights. Like that, you can't teach that stuff. That's what you want 100%. Do you want him to get hurt? Of course not. But would you rather just have some guy that never plays on the edge, that never gets, his intensity level up, and then there's no way he's going to hurt himself in a fight, I'll tell you that. But what does it say about that guy? I love this. He doesn't have to fight. Like, what are we talking about? Of course he doesn't have to fight every night. He never has to fight ever. But the fact that he did, absolutely, I love that. It shows intensity. It shows that he cares. It shows passion, and it's fantastic to see. And he did damn good. It's nothing jacks the boys up more than that. You're looking around going, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" Guys are just absolutely jacked about it.
To have a contrary opinion on that, I thought was ridiculous. Like, you can get hurt fucking in warmups. Like, Matt Murray got hurt in warmups last. Like, you can get hurt any part of the game, even before the game, even slipping in the shower. And to think, oh, you can't fight because you want to preserve yourself for the playoffs. I think you look like a bigger idiot if you're the player. And I had no issue with it. Just like you said, I think it showed me, it proved that there's one goal in mind for Philip Forsberg. It ain't a scoring title. Never. He's not even in the conversation. But like, the guy wants to win any cost, possible. He'll do anything. I think it goes so far in the room. And again, you're the perfect person to ask about that. What that would mean. And I really can't go against anything that the Nashville Predators are doing these days, man. They're like on an 18-game point streak. It's nuts. Have you talked to Schenner lately?
I haven't actually. He just said things are going good, but I haven't really touched base since I've noticed they've been on this run. But you look at like Vinny Lecavalier and Jerome McGinley and, Brady Tkachuk and different guys that aren't scared to mix it up. I mean, that's just another layer of leadership that you can have. And that if you play a little bit nasty and you're not scared, and it's just like guys just, hook their horses to you when you're that type of player. And is there a slight risk of injury? Yeah, you could say, why would someone go and finish all their checks? There's a risk of injury. It's like, well, then don't fucking play hockey if you don't like,
I know.
what are we talking about here? This guy just showed that he cares, that he's into it, that he's willing to do X and Y for his team, and his head's in it. He's not just worried about himself. He's not staying to the outskirts and letting other people handle that stuff. It's a great thing to see, if you ask me. And anyone who's like, no, you can't do that because he might get hurt, well, then that's your mentality. You go play and see how well you win.
Man, it's funny. The Leafs have sort of passed the baton. And we always talk about, oh, they're scared of scrums. And at times they still show that a bit, but they're a much different team, I would say, in the last 5 to 6 months. Where even looking back at that game against the Oilers on Saturday, I saw some of the media and people talking in Edmonton the last couple of days, saying players look like they're playing Disney on Ice out there, like scared of scrums. Like now, other fan bases, other markets are calling out their players for being scared of scrums. It's funny how the conversation, the narrative has changed around Toronto the last little while, especially when you add a guy like Joel Edmondson. I thought it was a really, really impressive showing against Edmonton on Saturday.
I thought it was unbelievable the way they handled it. And I mean, what are some things that have plagued and knocked the Leafs lately? It's been no physicality. They play chicken shit. Defensemen have no jam. They're not big enough. They're not defensive enough. And they have no secondary scoring. What was Saturday?
I know.
Secondary scoring in abundance. The physical nature of the game, like you got McCabe, you got Benoit, and you got Edmondson out there. And when those guys are banging and crashing, everyone plays bigger. And it's just small things like in front of the net, goalie covers it, whistle, guys kind of stand there. Just give them a little push. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. You want to say anything about it? I'll step in there. Just take it as far as you want. You own that crease. You own that zone. That is your area, and you're mean, and you don't like anyone around it, and you let that be known. As opposed to previously, we've seen the Leafs play, and a guy would stop, or two guys would stop right in front of their goalie, and they'd kind of look down and kind of skate into the corner or go to the bench. And it's just, guys prey on that. Guys take advantage of it. Look at the Lightning, what they tried to do last year. They're like, hey, this is the softest team in the world. Let's bully the shit out of them. And it didn't work, but it does all the time against them. And it's just an avenue that a team can take to get the best of you. And it seems like that's going away right now with the addition of these players and how they play and how they present themselves. And I just thought it was a wicked look. And they won that game in unbelievable fashion, and they didn't even have the help of the Marners and the Matthews, and they weren't the guys that took over the game where it's like, well, without them they're completely lost. It looks like they're much more well-rounded team than they were, say, last year, and it's exciting to watch a game like that. And now, to my point at the beginning of the show on why you need to find that and roll that into the playoffs, is that needs to be their identity going forward. That has to be their mentality going into every game, and especially a playoff series, is all those deficiencies you've had in the past. If you add to those and correct them and almost make them your strength, you've got a lot of firepower elsewhere. And all of a sudden this looks like a well-rounded, more suited for the playoff type of team.
It just adds another, dimension, another layer. I mean, if you use the onion analogy, I think you're so much harder to play against when you're rolling four lines, you're getting scoring up and down the lineup. It just makes you a different animal come the Stanley Cup playoffs. And again, I just thought it was hilarious that the conversation in Edmonton the last couple of days has been like, well, Edmonton's going after McDavid, he's going after Draisaitl. Where's the response? It's like, what a breath of fresh air that we don't have to talk about that in Toronto. It's like one of our guys doing it to the other team.
Yeah, it is breath of fresh air. And I mean, Tree Living has made some moves. I don't think that Edmondson trade made the noise that maybe it should have. I don't think anyone really understood what we were getting or what kind of changes it would make. But when he's playing that way, it makes an impact, man. It really does. And I can tell you that there's a drastic difference in your mentality towards the game when you're playing against a soft team that doesn't say anything to you, that looks down at their skates every time there's a whistle, and a team that'll kind of give you a little shove, like, get the hell away from my goalie type of thing. Even it's not a big thing, but it's just like, oh yeah, that's kind of their area, and they've planted their flag and said this is how it is. It makes you think of the game differently, and it's in your advantage to play that way. That's why teams that win the Stanley Cup and go through playoff wars have a bit of that physicality and a little bit of that attitude that Edmondson has brought and that Benoit has had. Those guys are both almost surprisingly effective back there, and it's good thing because it's exactly what we've been crying for a long time. So hats off to Tree Living for that trade.
Man, I was told Joel Edmondson was having a terrible year and just wouldn't be a fit on this Maple Leafs team. And again, the analytics community, the charts, the graphs, just steering us in the wrong direction. Ditto for the Labushkin trade. I think he's been a good addition thus far. And there's just so many things in the Stanley Cup playoffs that can't be quantified by numbers. Having said that, looking forward to tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips. So make sure to check that one out after the first of 3 against the New Jersey Devils over the final 12 games of the season. Also coming up, speak of the Devil, Brian Boyle, former Toronto Maple Leaf, was added for the first Austin Matthews playoff run way back when in 16-17. Played just under 30 games, a member of the Maple Leafs. He's going to drop by in about 20 from now.
Isn't that scary that that's becoming like quite a while ago? Like
I know.
that's oh god. But yeah, that'll be good to pick his brain. I mean, he should have his nose in the thick of things, being on NHL Network. He's played for a lot of different teams, organizations, some good ones, been part of a lot of things, and he's been breaking it down all year. So it's be good to pick his brain about his short stint in Toronto where he got his experience there. It wasn't that long, but I'm sure he's got something to say about it.
Yeah, for sure. And he's been to 2 Stanley Cup finals on top of that. And I think the unique thing, too, is that, again, he was there for the first of 8 straight years now. This will be the 8th consecutive season the Maple Leafs make the playoffs. Just interested and intrigued at the maturation process from year one to now, where it's like when that Leafs team made the playoffs in 16-17 out of nowhere and they brought the Capitals to 6 games, there was no pressure. And now there's all the pressure on the world. So I'm fascinated to see his perspective on this Leafs team moving forward at the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. If you're watching right now, help us out and are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Rosie, we're 25 subscribers away from 8,000, if you can believe it.
Are we really? I thought we were
Yeah.
just trying to get to 5,000. So that's good news. Good news. Keep hitting that up and we'll keep bringing it to you.
We're gaining ground for sure. At the Leafs Nation 401, subscribe and like, please, at the Leafs Nation 401. Once again, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off, up to $10 in value, and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more. When you download the DoorDash app, enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25, all in uppercase, 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. So a lot of news and notes from the morning skate. I don't believe they practiced yesterday, but it feels like wholesale changes. And I think the biggest news, and I don't know if Sheldon Keefe has spoke just yet, but morning skate, there was no Morgan Riley. There was no Joel Edmondson out there, Rosie.
That is very weird to see that lineup right there, especially at the bottom where there's no Samsonov either. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe, like you say, they're resting some guys, or maybe that flu bug or whatever the hell that is. It's been going through. Like, how long has it been? Like over a month that these guys are just getting picked out of the lineup. Every couple of days, someone's out for 4 or 5 days with some sickness. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a good time for this to happen. There's no big panic, but I had my gripes with the lineup against on Sunday there against.
I mentioned you called me when I was with my family.
Oh yeah, I was like, "What the hell is going on right now?" Like, I know if you're talking about Edmondson, I know a guy who's not having a very great year, and it's TJ Brody. And the only time you really notice him out there is because he's scrambling to get in position or he's panicking because he's overwhelmed. And I think he's been asked to play a role that he's not capable of or not ready for or can't handle. And when they pulled him out on that Saturday game, I mean, I just felt like that right there, whatever the hell that was the formula. And Sunday they put him right back in, and it's back to 2-on-0s and 3-on-1s and scrambly and missing it. And I honestly just feel like he kind of makes, at this point in time, I don't want to knock a guy personally. I don't like doing that, but it's our job to kind of say what it is. When he's in the lineup, he seems to make other guys, more scrambly and worse and less confidence in the decor. And I really, really like the way it was when he got scratched there. And I said, well, there you go. This isn't a league that, has everything equal and everyone gets a trophy and everyone has the same ice time. This isn't U9. This is the National Hockey League. And if you're not producing, I don't care what the deal is, especially when you're part of the Maple Leafs organization where they're desperate to find a formula to get it done in the playoffs. I think they found it. Here we go. Now we're rolling, and they go right back to him. and put him on the first pairing and play him. I don't understand it. And it kind of bothers me because that league is better than that. It's not a everybody hold hands and sing kumbaya league. And I would love it more than anybody that if TJ Brody was in the lineup and absolutely dominating, was our go-to defenseman, but he's not. And this is the big league. So he needs to be out, in my opinion. And I don't see anything that he's doing that would warrant him to get back in the lineup until things change. So disappointing on Sheldon Keefe, another, lineup decision where I just don't understand. And I'm not sure what's going on with this lineup here tonight, but I would guess that it's got to do with some either injuries or sickness and illness problems.
I would almost put like Connor Timmins ahead of TJ Brody right now. Like that's my fascination. Are they watching a different player? Are they watching a different game? Do they keep resorting back to the resume and the track record? Like even this whole Simone Benoit thing is really weird to me. Like maybe I'm watching a different player or a different team, but every night I think he's been pretty consistent throughout the season. And I think he's being miscast because of what he has been in his career, and that's been a depth defenseman. But I don't know how it makes any sense whatsoever to keep a guy out of your lineup who's been one of your most consistent defensemen, period, all season long. And maybe it's load management because he plays so heavy. I hope so, but he better be on the game one roster for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think it just leads me down a pathway that suggests that TJ Brody's going to be in the lineup. Like, I think they sort of realize they can't do anything substantial without TJ Brody, and they're caught in a bind. But if he continues to play this way, I just don't know how you put him out there for game one. Like, I do truly feel like you can win a playoff series based on how you react and your game plan and your changes and your strategy. Like, I mean, we've seen John Cooper and Sheldon Keefe go head to head for X amount of years. So like, I'm not saying that I'm not going to see TJ Brody in the first round series at all, but like, I wouldn't start with him at this point. He's been dreadful.
I don't even understand why we're talking about it.
I know.
Like, the guy has been as solid as you could ask. The only time you notice him is when he's being physical and when he's banging and crashing and doing something solid. Everybody has their little hiccups, but that's the only thing that TJ Brody has is hiccups and scrambling and out of position and trying to catch up and trying to get back into the play. It's just, you can see it, and it's unfortunate, but I don't care. This is the National Hockey League, and if Benoit's not in and Brody is, I'll lose my mind. I will call for Keefe's head on a stake. Like, you can't coach this team if you're going to do, like, does he owe him something? Does he owe TJ Brody something? What about Benoit? If I was Benoit's agent, I'd be rattling some cages right now saying, are you guys thick-headed or what's going on here? You want this kind of defenseman? This is what you've been begging for in the market. And here's my guy comes in and gives you exactly what you want for no money with no expectations. And he gives you what you want. And what's his return? What's his thank you? You scratch his ass every time, the wind blows. It's complete BS. I don't agree with it whatsoever. And this isn't a kumbaya league. This is the big league. And whoever's playing and performing is who should be playing and performing. And that's Simone Benoit. And when he gets scratched for TJ Brody to go in there and just scramble around and trip over his own feet, it's inexcusable.
Very baffling. I'm right there with you. And again, whatever is going on with TJ Brody, he has like 12 games to figure things out. And as I mentioned on last week's show, my hope, at least, it's probably a pipe dream. But if you recall last year, Morgan Riley had a terrible, terrible regular season, really elevated in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's just my hope. Again, I think it's a pipe dream in this case, but maybe gets to the playoffs, TJ Brody figures out who he is again, and he goes on this magical run. It is a contract here. He's looking to get paid past this season. And fingers crossed, because I do think they need TJ Brody. But having said that, there's no way he should be anywhere close to the lineup right now. Mitch Marner's back skating, which is great to see. Saw a video of him via Mark Masters earlier today. Still day-to-day, but I won't lie, I feel much better about the situation knowing that he's back skating at least.
Yeah, that kind of gives you, the sense of where he's at. There's no secrets, there's no hiding anything, there's no, smoke and mirrors. He's healthy enough to skate. They're just not going to push it, whether he's in this week or not. It's kind of irrelevant to me. He's actually out there and he's healthy enough to skate, so they're just going to take their time and make sure he's 100%. And it's a nice little blow for him at a good time of the year where he can, kind of rest up and get some treatment done and get any kind of little pings and ailments that are bugging him, healed up, and he'll be ready to rock for, the end of the season and the playoffs. So it's good to hear. It's kind of like confirmation that there's nothing else going on we don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I just didn't understand the wording last week, but I think quickly, and maybe it's the Toronto media, has made Sheldon Keefe like John Tortorella 2.0 with the media, where he said he was day to day from being day to day, whatever the hell that means. But I
I
digress.
got
This
that.
segment, pardon me.
I got that. I understood it. It's like we're not quite ready to say day to day. So we're like any day here, we're gonna call him day to day. That makes total sense to me. And everyone was freaking out, going, "What the hell does that mean?" It's like, well, just listen to it. He's day to day. By every day, we're gonna kind of analyze whether we're ready to say he's day to day. I just don't get the overreaction to that. I was like, that's good information. It's better than saying anything else. Like he's not quite. We're not ready to say he's day to day, but he's very close. I don't get. Everyone lost it about that. I'm like, Jesus, you can't say anything around that town.
I think I would just say he's out indefinitely. I don't need to be a smartass. Like there's no question the media is wearing away on Sheldon Keefe. Even his reaction last week, where Ilya Samsonov, I don't know. I can't even say got hurt, got injured. I don't know what happened, but he slipped at the morning skate and he said he's fine, guys. But we're going to get into the Samsonov conversation right now. This segment is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Roll Up to Win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary, and to celebrate their big year, you can win some big prizes like an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app, man. This Matt Murray thing is becoming more and more real, where it's like I started floating the name Aiden Hill out there because maybe that's the expectation. That's the hope. You can never have enough insurance in between the pipes, especially knowing what we know about Ilya Samsonov, and Joseph Wall's battled injuries throughout his earlier career thus far. But some news and notes for the morning skate, or even before it. Ilya Samsonov was on the ice taking shots prior to the morning skate, which is obviously a good sign. Doesn't look like he's going to dress tonight, by the way. I think they're going to go with Woll and Jones. And Matt Murray took part in his first morning skate of the season. Crazy.
Yeah, dude, everyone's like, he's fourth in line. Someone would have to die before he gets in the pipes for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. But I think he's getting healthy. They're trying to get him some reps, get him back in it. He'll probably go play with the Marlies perhaps. And I mean, his career is not necessarily over. Maybe he wants a contract next year. So makes sense to get him healthy, show people, showcase scouts. People are out and about. He's going to be on the Marlies at some point in time, I believe. That's what they're trying to get him towards, and see if he can reinvigorate something and get a contract for next year. Very simple. I don't think this has anything to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's not their goalie. He's not going to be their goalie. They're not thinking about him. They can't even activate him with cap reasons. There's just a plethora of reasons why he's not going to be the Maple Leafs goalie, but they're helping a guy out because they're a class organization to get him back going and see if he's ready, and maybe get him some games on the Marlies or something to try to get him a contract for next year. That makes total sense for me. And people are losing it as if they're going to put Matt Murray in the pipes in front of Samsonov and Woll and Jones for that matter. Not happening.
Never say never. I saw a report on social yesterday that it wouldn't be outlandish to suggest that Matt Murray gets in a game or two here in the regular season before the Stanley Cup playoffs. He can get activated in the playoffs. There's no cap. Just never say never. I watched Vegas last year roll through goaltenders like it was Halloween candy. But again, I don't mind the insurance. And I think people, to your point, are freaking out for no reason. I'd rather have the depth than not have the depth. Some quick news and notes from the morning skate. Mitch Marner upgraded to day-to-day. Okay, so a development on Mitch Marner progressing well. They're saying Morgan Riley, a game-time decision due to injury. Joel Edmondson won't play. He's day-to-day. And Joseph Woll will start in net.
Huh. So what happened to Riley? I don't know what happened to
Load
Edmondson.
management.
That's what I think. Well, they said due to injury, though. Yeah, whatever. What stock you want to put in that, do what you want to do. But, I hope they don't get too silly with that. These are hockey players, and this is an 82-game season. And, you got to play hockey. It's just a random Tuesday against the Devils, I guess. Pull them out a little bit, get them some. But I just hope that coming into the last week or so, they're full roster. This is the lineup. No more dicking around with lines. No more yanking Simone Benoit out. No more any of that. You got a team. Do you know who your team is? You've had 7 months to figure this out. Here's your team. Play them the way you would in the playoffs and roll that right into the playoffs. That's what I want to see. That's what I think will give them the most success here. But, a little bit of jumbling with the lineups. And I like seeing Woll in the net. I don't think it's not that he hasn't been given a fair shake, but they haven't performed in front of him. I don't think his numbers would look good. I haven't even looked at them, but wins and losses and whatnot since he came back hasn't been ideal. And I think he's played just as good as Sammy. And he just, Sammy's been great. I think Wolves played great. I like his confidence in there. He exudes confidence, and I think that can reverberate through the whole team. And I feel that, and you feel that when you have a good goaltender back there that's as solid as he is, and he just hasn't really got the results. So I'm looking forward to him, maybe getting a big win, maybe having a big performance, maybe people talking about him and his attributes tonight, because I don't think he's really gotten a fair shake, not due to any one's fault or anything like that, but I just don't think he's been able to have the accolades that he deserves since he's come back from injury.
Yeah, I thought he was great, specifically on Sunday. That's a tough spot to put your goalie in, and makes 41 stops. Most importantly, as I brought up with Carter Hutton yesterday, didn't let a goal in after it was 2-0 in that game, where it was like he was the only guy in Carolina in the first period. It seemed like the team just didn't show up, and I think he really kept them in the game, which is very encouraging. So I'm with you. I think they're going to play a desperate Devils team. We're going to get into that breakdown right now. The only thing sweeter than the taste of victory is starting your day off with the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart from Wendy's. That said, there's no reason you can't have both now that Wendy's and Daily Face-Off Fantasy are giving you a chance to win weekly prizes all season long. And hey, even if you make a few wrong picks, at least heading to Wendy's right now for a $5 Cinnabon Pull-Apart and a small coffee would be a great choice. Sign up for Daily Face-Off today, sponsored by Wendy's and the Wendy's app. So as mentioned, weird scheduling quirk. The Leafs have 12 regular season games left, Rosie, 3 of which will be against the Devils. And I don't know about you, all I can think about starting this one off, the first of 3, was the fact that last year, weirdly enough, the Leafs couldn't close the door on the Florida Panthers. The Panthers opened that coffin. They got to the playoffs, and who do they beat? The Toronto Maple Leafs go all the way to the Stanley Cup final, ultimately lose. But if I'm the Leafs, I think there's extra incentive. I want to bury New Jersey. I want to make sure they're eliminated. You never know what can transpire in the playoffs.
Yeah, I doubt they're putting those dots together and thinking that way. Yeah, but crazy. I don't think they're going to say we have to beat these Devils in case they sneak into the playoffs and beat us in the second round. Like I just don't think that's how they operate. But yeah, anything's. I don't know. Like what were they 5 games away and they're down 2 games. The other guys have 2 games in hand. I don't. Good luck.
They're not going to make it. But again, all I'm saying is that I just want to see a good effort tonight.
I hear you 100%. And I just always. I don't really standings watch. I don't really compare last year to this year. I just never do that. I don't think it's helpful or beneficial. I just think about yourself and your team and where you're at and what you need to do. And if you have that in control and if you have that going the way you want it to, then everything else takes care of itself. It doesn't matter who you face. It doesn't matter any of that shit. If you have it rolling the way you can, then that's perfect. And that's what bothers me about the Sheldon Keefe blender lining and everything else is how do you expect to have your best? How do you expect to even know what you have if you never have the same goddamn lineup? How do you expect some guys to go on streaks and some guys to feel a ton of chemistry? And it's not a secret that teams get hot sometimes and teams find something and line mates get hot. You don't allow them to do that when it's never the same thing. And it always bothers me. And I was waiting last year, I think, at this exact time, I was saying, can you please stop jumbling the lines because we don't know what we have and we don't know what we're looking at and we don't know what we're moving forward with. And lo and behold, they pretty much did that right up to the playoff time. And I just wanted to learn his lesson and say, you know what works. You've seen it. Stop fucking changing it. Let it cook. And he never wants to do that. It's like he feels he has to do something to validate his job or something. Sometimes a coach can just sit back and say, everything's working right now. I've set it up well. Now let's let them cook. He never seems to want to do that, which drives me a little bit crazy.
Any concern about Tampa being 4 points back? The Leafs do have a game in hand. I don't think you want to fall into the wild card, do you?
No, not really. I mean, in this division, it's kind of a coin toss, but no, you don't want to fall anything to anyone. So yeah, these games, I think it's good to have someone nipping at your heels a little bit. It gets your head screwed on straight. You don't fall into this, load management bullshit. It's like, we still got to play some hockey here and we got to figure out what the best formula is to play that good hockey. And I want to roll that right into the playoffs from now till then.
Very important time of year for sure. This interview is brought to you by Douglas, named Canada's best mattress on Canadian living. Douglas is loved by more than 200,000 Canadians, and they're backed by over 10,000 5-star reviews. Every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle, 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector. Order today at Douglas.ca. Douglas.ca/LMT. That's Douglas.ca/LMT as we bring in former NHLer, former Toronto Maple Leaf, now with the NHL Network. It is Brian Boyle. What's going on, Boiler?
How are you doing, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. I want to have a brow off with you at some point, man. We both got fantastic eyebrows, my man. Thank you so much for hopping on the show today. What do you remember most about your time? Because we're talking about it, man. Time flies. I don't know when maybe you don't feel the same way, but 16-17 is getting to a long time ago where it's, if you can believe it, it was year one of Austin Matthews in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, it was. It was a long time ago. It was interesting for me leaving a place that I was, not willing to leave. I didn't really want to go anywhere. It had nothing to do with Toronto. I didn't want to leave. I thought we had something good in Tampa, and they sort of proved that in the years that followed. But getting a chance to go up there and play was really exciting for me. Now, I just loved what they had in terms of skill and talent. I hadn't really seen that as much. I mean, Tampa had that too. My first training camp in Tampa, I was kind of blown away. But I had been so long with an organization that was relying on grit, and we did have talent. We did have, roles for guys that were supposed to score, but like we went to the cup final in 14, our leading scorer at 60 points. So it was much different. We relied heavily on Hank, obviously, but a structure that got us success. So having players on your team that can get you what I call easy goals, you're getting outplayed, you still can score a few and you end up with a win. It was good and bad, really. I mean, we had I thought the structure that they were introduced to with Mike Babcock was going to be really good for them in the future. When he left, things sort of, I think, changed a little bit. Obviously, they had freedom to do more things, but they were a treat to be around. They really were, excited to be NHLers. They knew they belonged. Mitch, Willie, and Austin, and I thought they had a real good, I think, foundation for what was going to be a lot of success in the years to come.
So, Boyle, you talk about, having certain attributes on teams. I think it's no secret if you go too far one way and rely on pure grit, you probably don't have enough to get it done. If you go the other way, pure skill and pure talent, probably not enough to get it done in the playoffs. What are you seeing out of this Leafs team this year and some of the, the changes they've made at deadline to try to, round themselves off a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Edmondson's a great player to have. I think that's one way to do it. I think, Jay, that you can go a lot farther if you have enough guys bought in with the grit. I mean, you can make up for lost talent in a lot of different ways, but you need 20 guys committed to it. And that's just through experience. I mean, the game's changed a little bit since, 2017, but I don't know if it's changed that much in the playoffs. So getting to the playoffs might be a little bit more difficult if you build a team sort of with all third liners. But I mean, you saw it last year with Seattle. It's hard to sustain over year, but I mean, you've seen it with Carolina now that they've added some really good offensive players. They're going to be a really scary team this year because of 20 guys buy into a certain way to play hockey. So,
And Boiler, I think the fascination too is like the year you guys made the playoffs in 16-17, there was like minimal pressure. And there will be a point in time in this interview where I want you to break down that behind the back pass to Kapanen and double OT, man. That was magic. But I think more so the fact that there was no pressure on that team. And now you flash forward 8 years later, it's like there's so much pressure. It's pretty crazy, eh?
yeah, I don't know. I think, well, I thought I felt pressure. It's a playoff game. I was, but it wasn't a negative thing. It was really like we get a chance to do something really awesome in a great city that is dying for it. And that's pressure, but it's how do you use that pressure? How do you kind of channel that into motivation? I remember my second year in Tampa, we got to the first round of the playoffs, and it was like game one of playoff against Detroit, and we were sleeping. It wasn't like we're like, when's game 7? Like, when's the second round? When's the third round? Like that was, and we lost. It wasn't a good game. We ended up winning the series in 5, but you go through these things, and when your heart's pumping at the anthem and you're a little bit nervous, I mean, I found that I played better anyway. The teams played better. That pressure is something you can really use. That can be such a helpful tool to a team. And, if it doesn't go your way enough times, you have to understand, like, it's up to you to change it. You can use it as a motivational tool. And, I think in Toronto, it's different. There's certain gotcha reporters. There's people that want to make their own little niche and claim on what they think they mean to the team, when reality, like, they report on the team. They have nothing to do with the team, and there's some reporters that probably don't know that, but that's all right. I mean, they're a big part of what we do. They're a big part of the fans coming and getting that voice or getting that information. I'm not dogging them, but players realize it's up to them. It's not, and whatever a reporter says has no bearing. I did it in New York. There was opinionated reporters there, and sometimes guys would get upset, and you just look, it's a big media market. They're trying to get their story put out there in whatever platform it is now. They have a job to do too. So I mean, you can't really take anything personally. You're going to play. Is your coach happy? Are your teammates happy? That's the pressure you should put on yourself.
So being a guy that played as long as you did, Boiler, and on different organizations and whatnot, I know your time in Toronto wasn't all that lengthy, but what were some of the things you noticed that stood out to you that were different about being on the Maple Leafs, positive or negative?
I remember. I remember I got like whiplash in one game. I had to go to some university to get checked out to clear concussion protocol, which I did. But I was walking there, and my wife was back in Tampa. I was on the phone with her, and two different people came and like slapped me on the back. I was walking down a random sidewalk. Kind of spooked me. They're like, "Hey man, can we get a picture?" I'm like, "No, I'm on the phone with my wife. She's pregnant right now. I'm just dealing with something. I'm sorry, but thank you." Anywhere you went, it was all positive. Really, they were just excited to see you. And I remember just playing in that building in the playoffs was something special. I mean, I grew up in Boston. I grew up with the Bruins. And as I played longer, I had more of an affinity for those original 6 teams and the history of the game. When I was a kid, I just wanted to play. I just wanted to make the NHL. But when I got there, I was kind of taking a look around and seeing what I was able to do and the teams that I was fortunate enough to play for. And I liked how, getting to play under Lou Lamoriello, kind of seeing what made him tick. He's obviously, he's been in the league for so long. He's had so much success. How he operated, being able to have conversations with him, having breakfast and Brendan Shanahan coming down and having a chat for 20 minutes was pretty awesome. But then seeing how those young guys practice, seeing how Austin Matthews practiced and Willie Nylander and what they did, and noticing how committed they were to their craft. And I don't know if people realize that even still. And Austin's having a hell of a season. So's Willie and Mitch as well. Like they're kids. Like at the time, they're kids like every other kid, but they're not. They're different. They're built different. Being able to see them every day, getting to know DJ Smith a little bit and Jimmy Hiller, those guys were kind of keeping me from going absolutely crazy because I wanted to do more for the team, but kind of the role I was in didn't really have me there. And Nazem Kadri, watching that guy play was a treat. I mean, that guy, I didn't see a guy battle that hard on both sides of the puck, but still have that much to do offensively. I couldn't believe what he was able to do for a guy that didn't really skate all that fast. He just was always in your jersey, always pissing people off. I tried to take a piece of that. It was a little later in my career, but watching him and how he kind of went about his business was remarkable. I never met anyone like him.
Man, hindsight's 2020, but some of the decisions, obviously, Hyman. I mean, we see what he's doing with Edmonton. You see Nas wins a Stanley Cup with Colorado now with the Calgary Flames. Like hindsight's 2020, but some of the players that have come out of this market, it's just a different animal playing in Toronto. And I like the fact that you brought up Lamoriello. I wanted to talk about that. Obviously, the maturation process, some of the younger players, now older veteran players, superstar players on this roster, but it would be great for you to paint a picture of what it's like being like a deadline addition, specifically to a team like the Maple Leafs. I mean, you lived it, and then being right thrust into the fire in the heat of things to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Can you paint a picture of what guys like Joel Edmondson are dealing with right now?
Yeah, they're coming into a team that has, its core. It's probably the same as it was. It's a lot the same. I mean, there's no Bozak, there's no Kadri, there's no Gardner, but they got those same, 3 guys. You got Tavares. I don't know how many guys he knows. I didn't really know anyone. I came in, and that's, for me, I've liked to stay places a long time now. The end of my career was different, as it is for a lot of guys, but like a loyalty to a team and staying and wanting to be a part of something through training camp is big. But it's hard when you get traded at deadline. It's different. So you got to understand that you got to be yourself. You can't be afraid to ruffle any feathers. They brought you in for a reason. but you want to see how everyone kind of operates. You don't want to screw any of the mojo up. You don't want to come in and, I don't know, just sort of put a chink in the armor. You want to just play well and kind of stay out of the way at first until you can kind of get more acclimated. It's an uncomfortable thing at first. Usually it doesn't take more than a couple days to get, all your bearings. You play a couple road games, you play a couple home games, and then what's a practice day like, a game day, etc. And then you kind of you figure it out, you get your routine down. But it's everything's different. Everything changes, right? Where you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, what are they serving at pregame meal at home, what are they serving on the road, what time are the meetings, what time's the bus, all those different things. There's a comfortability there when you're at a place a long time, and when that changes, that can kind of screw up your whole day as a player, because we're, with stuff like that, a lot of us are mental midgets.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, brother, about the playoff format, and if you like this wild card thing. I remember when they introduced it, I thought, well, that sets up to have some pretty big in division rivalries, which maybe it has. But on the other side of the coin, you look at someone in this Atlantic Division, and it's like it doesn't really matter what you do. You could squeak in, or you could finish second or third in the league, and you still kind of you're in that division. It's either like Boston, Florida, or Tampa, all powerhouses in the last handful of years. It's like it kind of doesn't really sets up to not really reward a good season in certain scenarios. What do you think about it? And if it should be changed, what do you think?
Yeah, I like 1 through 8. I really like 1 through 8, and that's how it, it should be. I think organically, if you get matchups in the final, in the conference finals, it's bigger. You get more eyeballs on it. I think the first round's, on the flip side of that, the first round's amazing. The first round is so much fun to watch. And then, for whatever reason, if your team's out, it doesn't matter. Like, it dips a little bit, not in terms of what's at stake, but what's, for the viewer. I think if you organically have, a Boston Toronto in the second or third round, I think that's more exciting. That's how it was going to be. That's how it, probably more in years past, but maybe not this year. We'll see. But it's like, take a look at the West, and 3 teams that I think could win the Stanley Cup might be done in the first round. It's kind of, it'll make for a great first round, but I don't know. I think 1 through 8, you finish where you finish, and then you get the matchup you're supposed to get. And I like how they make divisional rivals happen. It's like they beat us in the playoffs, but it's like when Colorado and Detroit were facing off in the conference finals every year, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's what I was watching. I remember that. It was the best. And I think you can talk to a lot of people. That was probably I fell in love with playoff hockey then in 1995, 96. And that's a long time ago, but that was kind of how they did it. And I think that's how they should do it.
Yeah, it's a lot different now. Even they're trying to force these rivalries on us too. Like, even if you recall when Vegas came in the league, they're like, Arizona's going to be their rival, and it's like we all know that's not going to, and it didn't happen. And Arizona's a story for another day. But lastly, I just want to get your thought on this Maple Leafs team moving forward. I mean, the burn and the buzz in this market. It's been a long time, since 1967. Do you like the Leafs' chances of doing something substantial this spring?
I don't know. I don't know if they got what they need in terms of depth. I think obviously they have the talent in the high end, but I think in a way, and I might get ripped apart for this, but I think they've been failed. Those top end guys, I think management's failed them a little bit. And what do you do? I mean, you want to lock those guys up. Yeah, I get it, but you have to build a team that has defined roles and guys that are good at their roles, right? And then you need to empower them in their roles. It's not like you're playing 2 lines for 50 minutes of the game, and then it's like, here's the scraps. You got to go do something with it. It's hard. It's really hard to do that as a bottom 6 guy. Most of my career, if not all my career, I had a role. I was a penalty killer. I was, defensively responsible. I got matchups against the Sedin line, or Thornton's line, or whoever. It was like that was my role, and I didn't have every single shift against them. I wasn't John Madden for the Devils, but it was like I had a piece of that role. That was something that really helped me. We had that in New York when we went to the Cup Finals. We had that even in Tampa to an extent. We had talented guys in Tampa we had to let go because they wanted to bring in, a couple bottom 6 or a 5-6 D. Like everyone was kind of slotted where they had to be. And I think, Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, these guys and the young guys coming up are starting to, I think Nyes is going to have a great future. I think, Bertuzzi and Domi they've starting to get a little bit more of a role. They're going to have more of a chance, but you need that for an extended period of time. So you know what you're rolling with in the playoffs. And I just don't know how they're all slotted. I think there's, a couple of guys are looking over their shoulder if they're going to be in, if they're going to be out. Like you want to know your role and kind of dive into that. And I don't know if they have it. Now, that being said, they have enough talent where they could obviously clamp down, figure out how to really defend. But I don't know. It's tough. There's so many really, Carolina's tough. Florida's tough. Those guys, those teams have roles. They have good players, but they're slotted in the right spots.
You know what, Boiler? I respect the shit out of that answer because we've had so many guests on this show and they all come on. They're like, yeah, the Leafs, I think they can do it this year. So a bit of resistance is never a bad thing on podcasts. Appreciate your time today. Enjoy the stretch drive. We'll talk soon, man.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. That is Brian Boyle, former Toronto Maple Leaf, played in 2 different Stanley Cup finals. And I respect that, Rosie. Like, give your opinion. That's, this is not shade at other guests we've had on this show, but like, that's the first time I can recall where somebody's like, you know what? Don't like this team. And that's fine. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and he didn't even say that. He just kind of, it's true. Like, they're not the top of the league. They're not dominating. They don't have a super playoff, ready team. And I liked his point about you got to know who your roles are. That's my biggest problem with this team right now is like, oh, Brody's scratched. Now he's your top pairing. Like, what are we doing here? Who's expected to do what? That's my biggest problem. Like, who's playing with who? And who's the third liner and who's the first liner and it's just all over the place. It's just an absolute stew of everything. And I want them, and I don't mind doing that to find out what you got and who sits where, but it's fucking game, whatever it is. And it's time to know what you are and then start, dialing that in and fine tuning it. So I'm totally on board with how he says that, but it's not a secret. I'm not betting my, life on the Leafs going the distance this year, but I'm telling you with what they have and when they play their best, and if you have the guys elevate like the Domis and the Bertuzzis and the Edmondsons and the McCabe's, and if these guys step up at the right time, which teams do in the playoffs, they can absolutely do some damage. And I just have faith that and hope that they will do that. But it's yet to be seen. No one can predict the future. But he just said it honestly, saying, they're not perfect and they don't have X, Y, and Z. But, that being said, they could elevate in the playoffs and do something. So, yeah, it's nice to not get a token answer for sure.
No, it's great. And I'm right there with you guys. Like, I think the team, the franchise has the luxury of having some marquee talent, some top level talent. And there's no doubt there's potential. It's like, can they put things together at the right time? Can the depth elevate? Can the goaltending be there? And that's what happens to the best teams in the league. You look at Vegas, you look at the Bostons of the world, the Pittsburghs of the world, a couple years back, St. Louis, Washington, everything came together at the right time. And that's the hope. That's the expectation. If the Maple Leafs can ever push through in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Tampa, same conversation. You need everybody to pull their weight. And it'll be interesting. In about a month's time, we'll start the Stanley Cup playoffs here. It's time for the Great Clips Inbox question of the day. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated and open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time, check in on your phone, and get your haircut when you want. Couple different questions. Would you play Marner with JT and Willie and leave Austin with Domi and Bert? Remember we had this conversation a week ago. It changed a bit over the weekend, but man, I was talking about this on yesterday's show. I love that Domi Matthews combo right now.
100%. I mean, if you don't have to play those guys together to get the most out of them, then spread them out. Like, what a disaster for the opposing team trying to match up against these two powerhouse lines. I mean, that's one of the great things about having that much talent on a roster is if you can spread it out and have like 2 first lines, what is the other team supposed to do? They're going to, if they're going to waste their best checker or, shadow guy or defensive specialist or line matching guy against Matthews and those guys, then he's just got to get off for Marner to come on with another set of big boys. So I would love the idea of splitting them up and not because they wouldn't be good together. They are good together. But if you can spread them out and have guys complement them in a similar way when they're not together, look out. So I'm all about that. And I've really, really been pleased with Domi's, especially Domi's chemistry with Matthews. He just seems to know where he is and want to get him the puck, and he does it in ways where even Matthews looking at him going, holy shit, not many guys, know to do that, and he's doing it and finding him. And then Bertuzzi's elevated too by getting those rebounds and being in front and getting that tip in the back door and doing everything that he does well. And I just think it's a fantastic line, and you don't need to shove Marner in there and break that up when you can find, Chem with him elsewhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know what Keefe's going to do ever, but I would not mind it at all if that is what happened.
Yeah, I want length in my lineup. I couldn't agree more. I think if you have the ability to deviate from what's worked the last 6-7 years and not play Marner with Matthews, then you do so, because I think it adds so much length to the lineup. And again, you can filter in Marner on a different line, and we'll see which route they go. I mean, it looks like Marner's back skating, and who knows when he'll come back. But I think at the very least, the Matthews-Marner combination is a thing. It'll be successful. It'll provide offense. Having said that, playoffs a different game, a different animal, and Sheldon Keefe loves that blender. I'm sure we'll see more of the same in the Stanley Cup playoffs, different matchups, different occasions, home ice, on the road. I mean, they've tried everything at this point in time. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips. It's going to be great. The Betano wrap-up is presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now, 19+. Please play responsibly. Major announcement. Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. Like a couple shot props tonight, I'm going to be on Jack Hughes, shoot the puck a bunch. Of course, his dad coached here, grew up in the area. I think he's going to be horned up. Travis Green making his return as the head coach now of the New Jersey Devils. I think the Devils will be full value in this game. And I think Austin Matthews, the battle of the Americans in that conversation. Luke Hughes is going to be in the mix too. I'm really excited for this game. I think we see some offense tonight.
Yeah, me too. I would take points for Domi, goal for Bertuzzi, goals from Matthews, that type of thing. Just find out who's hot, who's clicking, who's working together, and if the value's there, jump on them, because I could see them, ramping it up and continuing on what they've been doing here. Yeah,
I really like the Max Domi assist prop. And producer Vic writes in, Matthews 2+ goals to hit 60. I like that look as well. He's just right there. He is absolutely right there. He scores the empty netter too over the weekend, which I thought was awesome because, pardon me?
His first empty netter of all those
I
goals.
know, dude. Like, that's the incredible part about the season Austin Matthews has put together, and everybody wants to bitch and complain about the Hart Trophy conversation, whatever, is the fact that Austin Matthews has 58 goals and 57 have come with a goalie in there. Like, you look at some players, taking nothing away from Alex Ovechkin, incredible career, the best goal scorer right now of all time, in my opinion, but a lot of empty netters. And it seems like Austin Matthews does it the hard way sometimes. So it's great to see him rewarded for his stellar play. So looking forward to this one. I'd like to thank Brian Boyle for dropping on the show, and we'll come back tomorrow where we're going to recap things. We're going to have 11 games left after tonight's game.
Interesting. We will be there in the morning. See where we're sitting, man.
Yep, fired up. Don't forget the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips coming up directly following the Leafs-Devils game tonight. So make sure you check that out. Many thanks to producer Vic. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. Talk tomorrow. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.